Whilst exploring the wilderness with nothing but a sleeping bag, a fishing rod, and a box of matches can indeed be fun, when you're miles from the nearest hospital, it also has the potential to be extremely dangerous. One of the many things that has the potential to add to this danger is the plethora of incorrect information packaged as fact and then spread vociferously throughout the internet by both well-meaning amateur explorers and lazy click-hungry influencers who never bothered to do any research. Luckily here at Sideprojects we've got your back, and so without any further ado, here are some more survival tips which, should you follow, will ultimately result in your death. This particular piece of misinformation has been so widely circulated that almost anybody, regardless of their interest in the outdoors, will have heard it at some point. In fact, it is still included in many reputable survival guides and passed on by experts who really should know better. The basic idea behind it is due to the fact that moss prefers to grow in cool, moist, and shady conditions, and the north side of a tree is going to receive the least direct sunlight. All you have to do if you become disorientated while taking a stroll in the wilderness is find a tree, look for moss, and bingo, you now know which way is north. Unfortunately, there are a number of problems with this. Firstly, although it is true that moss favors the conditions we previously mentioned, it's not as fussy as people believe and will pretty much grow on any hard, flat surface that is available. Secondly, even if a moss-covered tree is perhaps more likely to have a higher concentration on its north-facing side, this is only really useful if the tree is standing on its own, away from anything that might block the sunlight. Should you attempt this trick in the middle of a forest, where the only sunlight that ever hits the tree trunk might come through, say, a gap in the canopy, then it is likely you may find yourself happily striding along in the wrong direction. So, what should you do instead? Well, what you should probably do is wait until it's dark and then look for the North Star. Failing that, even if your mobile phone has no signal, the included compass app should still work flawlessly. That is assuming, of course, that you remember to charge your battery. Just before we continue with today's episode, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Keeps. Now look, I'm not exactly the poster child for hair loss prevention, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't take action. It's just too late for me. My hair's not coming back. Isn't it sad? But that doesn't have to be the case with you, because Keeps is an online subscription service that makes it super easy and affordable for men to treat male pattern baldness right from the comfort of their home. No need to visit a doctor's office or a pharmacy. Everything is done online, whether you're trying to prevent hair loss, stimulate hair growth, or just take better care of the hair you have. Keeps have got you covered. They offer clinically proven treatments personalized just for you, delivered right to your door. And guys, Keeps is discreet. They deliver everything in non-branded packaging, so your little secret stays that, a secret. Plus, you can adjust, pause, or cancel your plan at any time. It's just that flexible. With Keeps, you complete an online consultation, get matched with a licensed medical provider who tailors a treatment plan to your specific need. It's all based on science, and most men start seeing results within just 6 months. They've treated over 1 million men in the last 6 years and have over 5,000 5-star reviews. So, if you're ready to take action against hair loss, head to keeps.com/Simon or click the link in the description below. That's keeps.com/Simon. That's me. And thanks to Keeps for sponsoring this video. Whilst researching for this video, we came across this piece of information a lot, and most of the time, it's just simply not true. Sure, you can get waterproof matches, such as the ones that are issued in army ration packs, but your standard over-the-counter safety matches are often utterly useless once they've gotten wet. The reason for this, according to an article on a popular survival website, is the chemicals used in match heads are vulnerable to moisture. Normal safety matches will have a package that will have a striking surface that is made from a gritty material such as powdered glass mixed with phosphorus. The head of the match is similarly made with grit, but it also contains sulfur and an oxidizer. A small amount of heat is created when you strike a match, caused by the friction of the glass powder grinding together. The warmth converts the phosphorus into white phosphorus, which begins to catch fire. Match heads exposed to enough moisture simply won't light as the careful chemical balance is changed. That being said, assuming you manage to keep your matches dry or invested in some waterproof ones, they actually have a number of survival benefits over, say, a lighter. These include, but are not limited to, they will light no matter how cold it is. Gas lighters will stop working if they get too cold. Their effectiveness is not limited by altitude, and if you're really unprepared, any spare ones can be crushed up to make very effective kindling. Have you ever seen a movie where someone gets bitten by a snake? Ever seen someone then trying to suck out the venom? Ever wondered if that's gonna work? Well, never fear, we're here to settle it once and for all. Before we get into the specifics of this one, we feel it's very important to answer the question quickly, and the answer is no, it doesn't work. not only does it not work, should you attempt it anyway, it actually has the potential to make the situation quite a lot worse. To understand why, it is necessary to know a little bit about how venom works. Obviously, there are many different types of venom. If this were not the case, then anybody who had the potential to be bitten by a snake could just keep a bottle of a universal antidote in the fridge and all would be well. The basic idea behind most venoms is pretty similar though. Get into the bloodstream, attack the nervous system in some way, and either cause the body to shut down or inflict debilitating pain. For those of you who are paying attention, you may have already realized the importance of that last sentence. Get into the bloodstream. As your blood is always moving, even if you started to suck at the wound immediately after you were bitten, the majority of the venom would most likely already be out of reach. Furthermore, the human mouth is not exactly a sterile environment. All you're actually likely to do is introduce unwanted bacteria to an open wound. Although you might think you'd have better luck with one of those venom extractors that are usually included in snake kits, testing on all the major brands has revealed that they usually only extract a mixture of fluid and blood, hardly any venom at all. Just in case this wasn't already obvious, attempting to cut out the flesh around the bite doesn't work either for exactly the same reasons. Plus, then you'll also have lots of additional blood loss, won't you? So what should you do instead? Well, assuming you're on your own in the middle of nowhere, the main pieces of official advice are somewhat conflicting and difficult to follow. First of all, you're advised to elevate the bite until it is level or just above your heart. Remove any tight clothing and remain as still as possible. Sounds fairly straightforward, doesn't it? And it is. Unfortunately, the next piece of advice is to get to a hospital as quickly as you can. If you're out adventuring as part of a group, then this might be possible. But if you're alone in the Australian outback, then we really don't fancy your chances. Sorry. This piece of advice is still regularly given out by diving instructors, handbooks, and intrepid YouTubers everywhere, and to be fair, the idea behind it is sound, it's just that the execution is questionable. The basic premise is that if you're attacked by a shark and you punch it on the nose, it will both disorientate the creature and cause it physical pain, which in theory should give you the opportunity to leave the ocean, or if in deeper water, at least climb back onto your boat. So, what's the problem? Well, if you've ever attempted aqua aerobics, you will know that water creates quite a lot of resistance. If this weren't true, then swimming would not actually be possible. Because of this resistance, throwing an accurate, powerful punch underwater is very difficult. In addition, according to Navy SEAL Clint Emerson, when sharks attack, they tend to come up through the water at a very steep angle, making it even more awkward to land a successful blow. So, just what does our Navy SEAL recommend? Quoting him, "As a last resort, assuming that keeping some distance between you and the shark did not work, you should go for the gills and the eyes. Emerson recommends jamming your thumbs into the eyes as hard as possible, or sticking your fingers into the gills and attempting to rip out the vents. While all of this sounds very harrowing, it is perhaps worth noting that according to Google statistics, you are much more likely to be killed by a dog, a lightning strike, a falling icicle, a cow, a hippopotamus, or a vending machine than a shark. Of course, you can always decrease the risk even further by staying out of the ocean entirely, which especially in certain parts of the world is probably a good idea." Now, in certain circumstances, this is actually really good advice. Unfortunately, many people have oversimplified the advice and applied it to all bears. Not all bears are the same, and what might save your life with one species will almost guarantee your death with others. Let us, for example, start with the polar bear. According to the exceptionally amusing and insightful zoologist Mamadou B. Nadaye, who talks about polar bears on his YouTube channel Casual Geographic, if you're ever in a position where a polar bear is in front of you, you know that living is no longer your choice. He goes on to explain that because a polar bear is capable of smelling a human from more than 2 miles away, the chances are that should you encounter one, it has been tracking you for a while and is hungry. Even if you just happen to have brought along your trusty firearm, unless it's an exceptional powerful weapon, all shooting at a polar bear is likely to do is make it angry. Playing dead is also bad advice if you're dealing with a black bear. According to the National Park Service, when a black bear charges, do not play dead. Instead, try to escape, or if that's not an option, fight back, focusing your blows and kicks at the bear's face and muzzle. So, which bears will actually take pity on you if you pretend to be dead or demonstrate subservience? Again, according to the National Park Service, if you encounter a brown or grizzly bear and it charges at you, lie face down with your hands clasped behind your neck. Stay still until the bear leaves. But if the bear continues to attack, then fight back with whatever is available. As you can see, this advice is hardly the guaranteed survival technique some people would have you believe it is. At the risk of making it sound like we're recommending never leaving your house at all, you are probably better off doing your best to avoid contact with all bears where possible. this one has been around for hundreds of years now, and until comparatively recently, it was believed to be true by some of the finest minds that the medical industry had to offer. The reason for this is fairly obvious. If you've ever been fortunate enough to enjoy a strong alcoholic beverage such as whiskey or brandy, you'll be aware that as soon as you drink it, you experience a pleasant warming sensation throughout your insides. In addition, it can bring a healthy warm glow to your cheeks, so it stands to reason people would believe that should you be experiencing early onset hypothermia, a couple of shots of brandy will warm you up nicely. Sadly, not only is this incorrect, it actually makes the situation much worse. The consumption of alcohol causes your blood vessels to dilate, which in turn sends more blood to your skin. This is what causes both the feeling of warmth and the appearance of color. Alas, when it's really cold, that blood is much more useful for stabilizing your core temperature. Now that all that warm blood has traveled to the surface of your skin, its life-preserving heat dissipates much more quickly into the surrounding air. According to an article written by the Cleveland Clinic, this process does stave off frostbite for a while, but that's a meager benefit far outweighed by the plunge in your core temperature. If you do find yourself stranded out in the cold and you are able to get a fire going, then boiling water on melting ice and snow and then drinking it while it's still warm is definitely your best bet. If you somehow do find yourself in a position where your only choice is brandy or nothing at all, then unfortunately, you're probably better off sticking to the latter. Not only does alcohol cause the problems that we've previously discussed, it's also a strong diuretic and therefore will cause you to become dehydrated more quickly. The last piece of bad advice we're going to cover today is that birds will always lead you to clean water. This outdoor adventurer's equivalent of an old wives' tale seems to be mainly based around the behavior of geese and was so popular at one point that it was allegedly included in the survival guide given to the Boy Scouts of America. However, it must be said we were unable to find any hard evidence to support this. So, why should you follow, or more accurately, not follow geese if you're looking for water? Although these birds usually live by the water, they will often travel large distances while looking for food. Those individuals who set some store by the aforementioned myth state that if you see a flock of geese traveling at dusk, then they will be returning to their watery home. While it is possible that this is what they're doing, it is just as likely that they're heading to a clearing to bed down for the night before continuing their journey the next day. If you're exhausted, starving and dehydrated, then it is a potentially life or death gamble, especially as you may end up walking for miles, becoming even more lost than you were, and still not having any water at the end of it. The only way that you can be absolutely sure of fresh water on your travels is to plan ahead and take enough with you. Or failing that, collect water from a fast-running stream or river and boil it thoroughly before you drink it.